A couple of logistical things before we dive into everything. So like I said briefly, you do have access to both a Q&A and a chat feature. So I do have some colleagues of mine who are working behind the scenes to answer any questions that come in. So if you do have any questions throughout this program, please put those questions in the Q&A feature. If you're having any sort of tech issues, maybe you're glitching in and out, or your Wi-Fi is not working, or the volume's not working, whatever the case may be, if you have any tech issues, please put that in the chat instead of the Q&A. That would be greatly appreciated. Please leave the Q&A for any questions that you have. We will have time at the very end as well to answer a few questions live, but we will have folks behind the scenes who will be answering those questions periodically throughout this session as well. So please feel free to engage with us, ask any questions that you have. We'd be happy to assist you in that way. We also want you to connect with us on social media, so I will leave this up for just a moment. So if you have a Twitter or Instagram, I'm sure most of you probably do. Facebook, I don't really know anymore. I think Facebook's kind of dying off with younger and younger students. I did not use that at all when I was in high school, and then I got to college and I used it all the time. So maybe it's just the way the nature is, but please feel free to get a screenshot of this, follow us on all social medias. We'd be happy to connect with you that way as well. So before we dive into everything, before I turn it over to my students, I just wanted to share with you this statement. With everything that's been happening, not just recently, but forever really in the US, we wanted to make it very clear what our stance was regarding racism. So as members of the Ohio State University, we condemn anti-Black racism and racism in all its forms, and we are committed to engaging, interrupting, and dismantling institutionalized racist structures. Ohio State's mission to prepare students to be leaders and engaged citizens calls on us to demand and support change. You can learn more about what Ohio State's doing to address racism by visiting the link that you see at the bottom of the screen there. We will also have that link posted in the chat, so if you do want to have something that you can click on directly, please feel free to do that. You can save it to your computer or your desktop, bookmark it, whatever you need to do, but that link will be posted in the chat as well. I just want to give you a brief update as far as what we're doing with virtual visits versus on-campus visits regarding COVID-19 as well. So I do have a colleague who will put a link in the chat to our admissions page so you can get updates as far as what not only the admissions office is doing, but what the university is doing to address COVID as well. Please know that the university has canceled all on-campus admissions tours, events, and programs through the remainder of the semester. We are still kind of working things out as far as when we're going to be able to bring these opportunities back. So at this point in time, everything is being done virtually. So please feel free to visit our website. There should be a link posted in the chat as well that will take you directly there to utilize some of the resources that we have available to you. And lastly, before I turn over to the students, here's a little snapshot of what we are going to cover today. So definitely going to go into a lot of information. You'll be hearing from our students directly about what it's like to be a student, get information about our rec center, residence halls, student life, things like that. So a ton of great information. You're going to see a lot of different places on our campus. I know it's weird that we're doing things virtually and you can't do things in person. You can't be here physically and you can't see the residence halls in person or a classroom in person, but we still want to be able to connect with you virtually and make sure that you're getting all the appropriate information that you need to make sure that you're still within the Ohio State system there. So as I go ahead and switch over to the virtual tour, I'm going to turn it over to the student tour guides to introduce themselves and take the rest. So Tatum, we'll start with you.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Tatum McPhillips. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm a fourth year from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, studying data analytics.
Hi, everyone. My name is Faye Daher. I'm currently a fourth year from Hilliard, Ohio. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm studying public affairs and geography.
And then before we officially start our tour, we do want to take some time to get to know everyone that we have on this virtual tour today. So we do have just a few quick questions for you, and we touched on this first one a little bit earlier, but the first one is going to be, where are you joining us from today? So we have the options in the state of Ohio, from outside of Ohio, or potentially even outside of the United States.
And Tatum, just so you're aware, both questions launched at the exact same time. So just so you're aware of that.
Okay, thank you. I'll read the second one out, sorry. So then the second one is also, I'm applying as a blank. So are you a first year student, or will you be a first year student? Are you a transfer student, or are you coming to Ohio State from as someone else? So I'm actually excited to see that there are a lot of you coming from outside of Ohio. Again, I mentioned that I'm from Philadelphia, so I myself am an out-of-state student. So that's always exciting to see. I'm not sure, Faye, if you have any thoughts on our questions and our results that we see.
Yeah, I'm from Ohio, but that was also interesting that majority of you guys are joining us from outside of Ohio. So welcome, I guess. But I'm excited to get started.
All right, so with that, I believe we'll officially get started with the tour. Jackson, do you have that pulled up, or I don't think we can see it on your screen?
Okay, let me fix that very quickly. I do have it pulled up. So let me fix that very quickly. Let's see here. Also, if you can hear my dog eating food in the background, I am very sorry. He's right next to me, so I apologize for that. Let me stop sharing and then reshare very quickly. Okay, is that better?
Yes, perfect.
Thank you very much.
So we are, again, officially going to start our tour right here at the east entrance of the Ohio Union. So the Ohio Union is very much the front door to campus. There's always something happening here, whether it be students meeting up with their friends, attending student organization meetings, or just getting food at one of the 4 dining locations located within the building, which Faye will explain in just a minute. In the southeast corner of the Ohio Union, we have our Dtix office, which offers discounted tickets to concerts, art shows, and other events around the city of Columbus. These tickets are provided to any and all students. You just have to use your Buckeye ID. If the Dtix office doesn't have exactly what you're looking for, or if you prefer free entertainment, then we also have OUAB, or the Ohio Union Activities Board. OUAB puts on over 300 educational, thought-provoking, and entertaining events each year, and they're all provided to students at no additional cost. I actually joined OUAB in my second year at Ohio State, and one of my favorite events was the Hot Air Balloon Festival that happened last fall. We had food, carnival games, and over 300 students got to ride in a hot air balloon right here on our own campus. This semester, to adjust to the virtual nature that everyone is going through, we actually had grab-and-go craft nights and virtual panels with guests like John Mulaney and members of the original Hamilton cast. So there really is something for everyone to try out. So if you do end up coming to Ohio State, I would highly encourage you to get involved with OUAB in some capacity. But for now, I'll pass it over to Faye to talk a little bit about dining.
All right, thank you, Tatum. So like Tatum mentioned, the Ohio Union is home to 4 different dining facilities, but the one that we're going to walk through is the Union Market, which is one of over 30 on our campus to choose from. So along with the different dining locations, we also have 5 different styles of dining. So the first one is tradition, which is what parents and students think about when they think about traditional college dining. So it's a buffet option. You swipe in with your Buckeye ID, which is your student ID here on campus, and you're able to stay for however long you'd like and eat as much as you'd like. Next, we have quick service, which is like a Panera or Chipotle. The Union Market is an example of a quick service location. Then we have grab and go, which is like a Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks. C-stores, which are campus grocery stores. And Sloopy's, which is also in the Ohio Union, but it's a traditional sit-down restaurant. So Sloopy's is my favorite place to eat on campus. They have the Buckeye pancakes, which are peanut butter chocolate pancakes. And they're my favorite thing to eat after like a rough day or a bad exam, and they always get my mood right back up. So along with the 5 different styles, we also have 3 different ways to pay for your dining. The first way is a traditional visit. So like I mentioned, we have the traditions location. The traditional visits offer you 1 swipe into a traditions location. Dining dollars are a debit option, and they can only be used on on-campus dining locations. And then the final choice is Buckeye ID Cash, which is also a debit option, but it can be used on and off campus and for purchases other than food. So of these three options, only traditions is the only one that does not roll over week to week. It does not roll over week to week. Additionally, all of our locations have dietary restriction icons and solution stations where your food will be prepared just for you if you have like a food intolerance or an allergy or anything like that. Now we're going to be leaving the union and heading to one of our residence halls. So as we head out of the union, you can see that glass structure with the green roof. That's one of our bus stops here on campus. So we have two different ways for students to get around not only campus, but also the city of Columbus. The first option is CABS, which stands for Campus Area Bus Service. That is for the on-campus area. These buses take you anywhere you need to go in as little as 15 minutes. Then we also have the COTA bus system, which stands for Central Ohio Transit Authority. This is provided to students through a $13 service fee at the beginning of each semester. You swipe on with your Buckeye ID, and you're able to take it downtown, or if you want to take a trip to the local Short North, which is a local arts district, the COTA bus system is really awesome for those two things. But now I'm going to be passing it off to Tatum, who's going to be walking us through this building that you see in front of you to tell us a little bit more about residence life.
Thank you, Faye. So this building is Smith-Steeb, which is one of 37 residence halls that we have on campus. There are about 14,000 students living on the Columbus campus, and each of the buildings that they live in has its own floor plan and geographical location on campus. Using your Buckeye ID, you have access to your own residence hall 24 hours a day, and you have access to any of the other residence halls between the hours of 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. On the left-hand side of this picture, you can see the front desk, which is staffed 24/7 by our office assistants. At the front desk, you can check out everything from video games and board games to cleaning supplies. So if you feel like you forgot something or you're just looking for something else to do in your residence hall, then you can stop by the front desk and they should be able to help you. And now as we make our way up to an example of one of the rooms in Smith-Steeb, I just want to point out that there are 3 distinct living styles on campus, and those are traditional, suite, and cluster, but we're going to be talking about the traditional setup today. In this traditional setup, it's designed for 2 people, so you can see that we have a bed, a desk, and a closet for each person in your room. With this style, there are communal bathrooms at the end of every hallway. Every room on campus will also be equipped with a micro fridge, Wi-Fi, an Ethernet port, and access to 70 channels of cable. All residence halls will be single gender by room and co-ed by floor. Regardless of where you live on campus and regardless of what year you are, because we do have a 2-year live-on requirement, every resident will be assigned an RA or a resident advisor who is a resource to address any and all questions you have while living in the residence halls. My freshman year RA, Brooke, was a big proponent of building community within your hall, so she put up study buddy posters on the walls of our hallways. On it, we put our names, contact info, and any classes we were taking to see if we had anything in common with the people we were living with. As it turns out, I had a lot of classes with my now good friends Matthew and Mitch, so because of these study buddy posters that Brooke put up, we were able to get each other's contact information or phone numbers and meet up all the time to do homework, study, and ultimately build the friendships that we have today. But now, as we make our way out of Smith-Steeb, I want to mention the Office of Student Life and Disability Services, which is located in the South Residential District, which we're walking through right now. There are over 4,000 students registered with this office with disabilities ranging from things like ADHD to temporary injuries such as a broken arm or a broken leg. And they receive a variety of different services, including, but not limited to, exam accommodations or note-taking assistance. If at any point you feel like you're not performing to the best of your ability, just stop by this office and they will be able to help you. Now I'll turn it back over to Faye to talk about the building you see in front of you.
Thanks, Tatum. So right now we're standing in front of Hale Hall, which is a really historic building on our campus. It was actually the first student union here at Ohio State, but it's been repurposed, and today it houses the Frank W. Hale Black Cultural Center, the Women's Place, the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, and the Bell National Resource Center for the African American Male. So Hale Hall is one of my favorite places to study on campus, particularly because they have a test bank in the basement. So if I'm taking a larger, more popular general education class, I'll head over to the test bank and I can check out previous exams, midterms, quizzes, things like that from that class to use as a study tool. So I would just like to point that out on our tour because I think it's a really awesome tool that not a lot of students know about. So we're going to be walking away from Hale Hall and walking towards Mirror Lake. So again, Mirror Lake is a really historic place on our campus. And for me, it's really a hub of student activity. So one of my favorite events to attend on the lake is the Off the Lake Productions, which is a student group here on campus that has productions right in front of the lake. And I also really just like to sit, study, and people watch at the amphitheater, which you guys are going to see in just a second, when it's a little bit warmer than it is today. So this is one of my favorite places to just hang out and relax on campus in between classes, things like that. So now we're going to be walking away from Mirror Lake and walking towards Thompson Library. As we walk towards Thompson, I'd like to share a really quick Ohio State fact. So OSU was established in 1870, which means that 2020 is actually our sesquicentennial year. We're almost complete with 150 years. And it was actually established as the Ohio Agricultural and Mechanical College, and OSU opened its doors officially in 1873. The first official graduating class, back then tuition was only a suggested donation at the time of graduation. So unfortunately, that's one of our traditions that has not stayed the same. But I'm going to be moving away from that and passing it over to Tatum, who's going to be walking us through Thompson Library.
This building right in front of you is Thompson Library, and it happens to be the largest of the 10 libraries that we have on our central campus. Being so large, it means there's a lot of resources for students to take advantage of, such as group study rooms, individual study tables, and a number of computer desktops and printers. One other great resource here is being a part of Ohio Link, which connects us to a number of different public libraries throughout the state of Ohio. If you don't find the exact book you're looking for here, but you do find it online through Ohio Link, you can have that book sent to the front desk on the first floor of Thompson, use it for your research, homework, studying, whatever it may be, and then return it to the same desk and they'll take care of the rest for you. And then finally, on the ground floor of Thompson is where you'll find one of 2 Buckeye Bar locations. Buckeye Bar is where you can go for all of your technology and IT troubles. I could talk endlessly about Thompson because it is my favorite library on campus, but one memory I'll absolutely never forget is getting to Thompson as soon as it opened. I believe it was 7 a.m. every day of finals week last year, just because it motivated me to get through my work and all of the studying that I had to do. My friends were able to come in and out of the library too, so I got to see different people and take breaks throughout the day. But overall, it was really just the least stressful and most productive finals week that I've had since being in college. And so I definitely will not forget that, especially now. I just took a lot of finals right here at home. So I'm definitely missing Thompson Library and all of the different study spaces we have there. But on that note, we are going to switch gears and head out the west entrance of Thompson to make our way to one of the rec facilities. And then to get there, we're going to be walking on what the ambassadors have come to call Wellness Walkway, which gets its name from the fact that on our left-hand side, you'll find the Psychology Building and the College of Public Health. And on the right-hand side, you'll find the Will Student Health Center. At the Student Health Center, there's a fully functioning pharmacy, and students have the opportunity to schedule appointments, sometimes day of, for things like dentistry and optometry. But now back to Faye to talk about those rec facilities that I just mentioned.
All right, so right now we're standing in front of the largest rec facility we have on our campus, which is the Rpac. And the Rpac stands for the Recreational Physical Activity Center. And like I mentioned, it's the largest on our campus, but it's also one of the largest collegiate rec facilities in the nation. But it's also one of 6 others on our campus. So all students have an automatic membership to both the Rpac and the other 5 rec facilities, so long as they're taking 4 or more credit hours. So you can decide to stay on campus for the summer, take a class or 2 while you have an internship or you're doing research, and you'll have that free membership as well. So some of my favorite features include the one indoor jogging track, which is literally just like the free group fitness classes offered each week. We have 7 different, 3 of which are in the McCorkle Aquatic Pavilion, which has the best smoothies on campus. So sometimes I'll get a smoothie from Juice 2 and walk straight out of the Rpac without working out or anything. But now we're going to be walking out of the Rpac and towards the Ohio Stadium. As we walk towards the stadium, I'd like to tell you all a little bit about recreational sports. In addition to varsity sports, we also have both intramural and club sports here on campus. We have one of the oldest and largest intramural sports programs in the country with over 30 sports and events a year. One of my favorites is a life-size version of the board game Battleship, which happens in the McCorkle Aquatic Pavilion. It's very amusing to watch. I've heard it's pretty stressful to actually be involved in. So now I'm going to be passing it off to Tatum, who's going to be talking to us about the Ohio Stadium.
As I'm sure many of you know, Ohio Stadium is the home of the Ohio State Buckeyes, and it also just happens to be another one of my favorite places on campus. Every student is eligible to purchase one ticket package, whether that be the full season package or the Big Ten Conference package, and those tickets will be at a discounted price. While it's definitely not a requirement to like sports or specifically football in order to come to Ohio State, I'd highly encourage everyone to try at least one game before you graduate, because you might end up being like one of my freshman year roommates, Sheridan. So coming to Ohio State, Sheridan decided that football game days would be the perfect day to go to the library and study, whereas I was getting to the stadium as early as possible so that I didn't miss a thing. It took my friends and I until the last home game of our freshman season to convince Sheridan to come to a game, and it's safe to say that after experiencing it for herself, she has never stepped foot in a library on game day again. That's just because there really is something special about cheering on the Buckeyes, high-fiving and hugging all of the students around you, and ultimately linking arms with those same people, those same Buckeyes, at the end of every game, win or lose, to sing our alma mater, Carmen, Ohio. It's what I believe to be the purest form of Buckeye pride, and it's something I'm anxiously awaiting getting back to, even after I graduate in May. But now I'll pass back over to Faye as we make our next stop.
All right, so we're going to be heading back over to the Oval, and we're going to be talking about student involvement while we're there. So I'd like to tell you guys about one of my favorite events that happens on the Oval each fall, and that is the Involvement Fair. So that's when our over 1,300 student organizations come out, and they're ready to show students what it is exactly that they are about and why students should consider joining their organization. So I went to the fair during my first semester, and I learned about the Muslim Students Association, and the MSA has been a real home for me here on campus. I've been able to serve on the board, I've networked with alumni, and I've met some of my very best friends through that organization. But for me, I was looking for a place that felt comfortable and a place that felt like home. But for my friend Sarah, she was really just trying to get out of her comfort zone and get out of her element. So she decided to join the longboarding club, even though she had never longboarded a day in her life. But she was able to meet some really cool people that she would not have met in her residence hall or in her classes. And to this day, this is her like third year in the club. She still is a really, really bad longboarder, but she talks about that club all the time. So I know that she's really passionate about it. The fair is also a great place to learn about sorority and fraternity life. So on campus, we have over 60 sororities and fraternities, and over 13% of our students are involved in some way. But before we move on to our next stop, I'd like to tell you all about the tradition of the long walk. So as we mentioned a little bit earlier, President Thompson, who Thompson Library is named after, was our university's 6th president. And he used to actually have convocation right there on the Oval. And he would ask, it's said that he would ask at the end of graduation if there were any students in the class who wanted to also get married, because he was an ordained minister, so he had the ability to marry them. And so the story goes that they would walk from the east end of the Oval to the west end, where he would marry them. So this is actually not true. President Thompson never married anybody on the Oval, but it created the tradition of the long walk, where it is said that if you can walk from the east end of the Oval to the west end without anybody crossing your path, with your significant other, that's an important part. You can't just do a long walk by yourself. And without anybody crossing your path, or without the bells of Warren Hall chiming, you two are destined to last forever. So this is a really cute thing to do with your significant other. If you guys make it, you can say like, we're meant to be together forever. But it's also a great way to break up with somebody. If somebody crosses your path, you can just say, I don't think it was in the stars for us to be together. So on that note, I'm going to be passing it off to Tatum, who's going to talk to us about classes here on campus.
Now, coming into Ohio State, one of the biggest things I was concerned about were my class sizes, because I knew how large the university was. It turns out that I didn't actually need to be too concerned about that because in reality, 73% of courses offered to our first year students are made up of between only 1 and 50 students, which is significantly smaller than I was thinking. One level up, 14% of those courses are made up of between 51 and 100 students. And although we do have those larger class sizes of over 100 people, they actually only make up 13% of the courses offered to our first year students. If you are placed in one of those larger lecture classes, then you'll also be placed in a recitation class. This is where we split up your larger class into smaller sections of about 20 to 30 people. We say lecture is for learning, whereas recitation is for review, because ideally you won't be learning anything brand new in your recitation sections, but rather going deeper into material that was taught in lecture or answering questions to make sure you have a good understanding of everything being taught. Recitations are taught by either teaching assistants or TAs, who are undergraduate students who recently performed well in the class and were therefore handpicked by the professor to help teach the course, or graduate teaching assistants, which are students pursuing a higher degree in a related field. The student-to-faculty ratio at Ohio State is 19:1, but this doesn't include our TAs or GTAs, so in reality, I like to think of that number as being even smaller. All professors are required to have office hours at a designated time and place each week. Office hours are a great way to get your questions answered from lecture or to simply get to know your professor a little bit better. As for schedules, we have our pretty typical autumn and spring semesters. Autumn semester starts in late August and finishes in early December, whereas our spring semester starts in early January and goes until late April. We also do have an optional summer term, but the keyword there is optional because you don't have to take classes if you don't want to. These classes can be anywhere from about 1 month to 12 weeks long, from early May to early August, whatever fits best in your schedule. But now, as we make our way out of Page Hall, this classroom you see here, and back to the Ohio Union where we started our tour, I'll talk a bit about my favorite class or academic experience at Ohio State. This actually happened last autumn when I was in a design class for my major. My professor Yvette made herself very, very accessible to every student to the point where she had office hours both before and after every class meeting of the week, and also highly encouraged us to make appointments with her just to get to know us a little bit better. Because of this, I always felt supported in the class, was always caught up on all the material, and could constantly get feedback on the assignments we worked on throughout the semester. It was nice to use office hours to build a good relationship with Yvette, and I'm looking forward to taking another one of her courses next semester as I finish out my undergraduate degree. But now, as we finish off our guided virtual tour, I'm going to pass it back to Faye to tell a little story.
Thank you, Tatum. So as we finish our tour, all the ambassadors, we have a tradition where at the end of our tour, we talk about why we chose Ohio State and why we decided to stay. So my reasoning for choosing Ohio State actually begins way before my college search journey. So I'm from the Columbus area, which I mentioned a little bit earlier. I have 2 older sisters who both went to Ohio State, and I have a dad who's like the biggest Buckeyes fan to have ever existed. So being a classic middle child, I knew that I did not want to go to Ohio State at all. But I was still really unsure about what it is exactly that I wanted, where it was exactly that I wanted to go and what it was that I wanted to study. So I ended up applying to 13 different schools, and I did not visit a single one of them. But these schools are really diverse because, again, I was just very unsure. So I ended up applying to huge public institutions on the West Coast, tiny liberal arts colleges in the Northeast, and I eventually applied to Ohio State after my dad basically bribed me when I was in high school to apply to OSU. So I decided to apply, and in January I heard back from the school. In March, but even though I had heard back and I knew that I was accepted, that still did not really change Ohio State's ranking for me. I knew that it was kind of my last option. So in March, my 2 older sisters happened to be in town, and they said, okay, enough is enough. You have to actually visit a school. You have to see a campus before your eyes before you make this huge decision. So they decided to take me on their own little personal tour of Ohio State. So it was nowhere near as professional as the one I gave you all today. I didn't get to hear about the student to faculty ratio or how many credit hours you have to take to get a membership to the Rpac, but they kind of just showed me what they loved about Ohio State and the places that were special to them. So we started our day in the Ohio Union. We went through all of the offices and the little nooks and crannies where they spent their time. We walked over to Smith Steve, which is where one of my sisters actually was a resident. We walked over to Page Hall, which is the building where Tatum was explaining classrooms to us. And Page Hall houses the John Glenn College of Public Affairs. So they took me there because they knew that serving my communities through public policy is something that I'm really interested in. The John Glenn College is now the college that I'm a part of. We walked through the Oval and we actually ran into one of their old professors who still remembered them, even though they were alum, which I thought was super cool. We walked over to Orton Hall and saw the Dinosaur Museum. We walked to the Fine Arts Library, which was their favorite place to study. Now it's not my favorite place to study. And we ended our day at the Ohio Union where we had the Sloopy pancakes. And I'm not joking, after the first bite of those pancakes, I knew that Ohio State was the school for me. But it's not just the pancakes, it was the feeling that through campus, I just knew that the school was the right fit for me. So I decided to come here, and I have not regretted that decision once through my almost 4 years here. I've been able to find some best friends who I can now call my family, professors who I can call mentors. I found the perfect career for me, and now I get to go through this journey with my younger sister, who's currently a junior. So I get to go through this crazy, awesome Ohio State experience with my best friend. So that's been super incredible. So if you felt that feeling at all during our tour today, I really encourage you to explore that. If you didn't, that's totally cool. Our job is just to tell, as ambassadors, is to tell you why we love Ohio State, not to force you to love it. But thank you all so much for your attentiveness, and go Buckeyes. I'm going to pass it over to Tina.
Thank you, Faye. So when I was in your position, I definitely did not have a dream school, and much to my parents' dismay, I did little to no research into where I wanted to go to school beyond the fact that I wanted to be in a city and I wanted to be warm. For this, I applied to schools all over, including some in California, Florida, Texas, and just a few closer to my home of Philadelphia. I was, however, forced to apply to Ohio State because my parents knew that it had a good program for my intended major. The keyword there was definitely forced because I applied to please my parents and assumed that would be the end of the conversation. Evidently, that was not the end of the conversation, seeing as I just spent this time talking with you about the school that I now love so much. But as time went on, I was ultimately between Ohio State and a school in California. Now, California is a state that I've been dreaming of living in since I was about 10 years old, whereas Ohio never even crossed my mind as a state that I ever needed to visit during all of my travels. Needless to say, the decision seemed pretty obvious to my friends and my family. I ended up being in my sister's California apartment, literally watching her live out my California dream when I decided to accept my spot at Ohio State because something just felt right. There was no one ultimate deciding factor, and I never got that special feeling you always hear about and that Faye touched on in her story. My gut was just telling me Ohio State, so I went with it. Now, having been here for 3.5 years, I can confidently tell you that there are definitely things that I would do differently related to my college experience, such as I'd come in with a different major, I'd make it a point to go abroad, I'd talk to more people, I'd join more clubs, but one thing that I would not change is my decision to come to Ohio State. I've made Ohio my home away from home and Ohio State my dream school, and I couldn't be happier about it. So again, regardless of where you end up, whether it's Ohio State or not, I hope you can use my story as an example that you will end up where you're meant to be, even if you don't realize it at the time. So good luck with the rest of your college decision process. But for now, I'm going to pass it over to, I believe, Thomas to sort of finish us out and answer some questions that you all have.
Yes, hello, good evening, everyone. I know that you were just hearing from my outstanding colleague, Jackson, and we are all in the world of internet connectivity issues, and so Jackson is unfortunately coming back on, so I will take over at the moment. My name is Thomas Giles, and I currently serve as the Assistant Director of Outreach and Recruitment in the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. So we're going to pick up right where Jackson and these wonderful students, Tatum and Faye, have left off. And the first question that came in here is, how safe is is it to be on campus and off campus, and what is provided on campus to ensure everyone's safety? Well, a couple of things there, and that is because Ohio State is a public institution, there are not four walls or brick walls, if you will, surrounding the campus, that so to speak. So that means that the campus is open to the public, and that means that guests are coming on and off campus all day, every day long, or all day long and every day, and our students have access to a number of fantastic resources. One of which, if you were to come to campus, you would see these blue emergency call boxes. They're blue lights up at the top, and you can see them littered all over the campus. So if Tatum is studying in Thompson Library late at night and she's got, I don't know, maybe a 10-minute walk to her residence hall or her off-campus apartment, she can call our Ohio State Police Department, and they can truly escort her from the Thompson Library over to her residence hall or apartment at any hour of the day. Ohio State has its own police department, which is a really, really neat feature for our students. Another opportunity is what's called our rave system. So all of our students, when they come to Ohio State, they have to register a cell phone number and an email address, which typically their student OSU email address, or they can use a personal one. Any emergency issues that take place on campus that is communicated by the university whatsoever, they will instantly get a text message and an email in regards to that emergency. A neat feature behind Rave is that you can also add a family member to this to receive the same information if a student chooses to. So Ohio State has done an excellent job of maintaining safety both on and off campus for our students. That's an excellent question. Another question that came in is, when should early action applicants expect to hear back from Ohio State University? And so I'm thinking that this student is a current senior in high school, and they have applied early action, and they are wanting to know when admissions decisions will come out. I respect, and I'm glad that you are on this webinar this evening, because for those students who apply early action, they will receive an admissions decision by the end of January. Now, it could be sooner. The latest is the end of January, okay? For those who choose not to apply early action, those students will receive an admissions decision by the end of March. That too could be earlier. The latest is March. Great, great question. Let's see, these questions are rolling in here. Let's see, can you tell me anything about the Honors and Scholars Program? Gosh, how much time do you have? Because I can talk for a long time regarding the Honors and Scholars Program. But think about it like this. Honors and Scholars is housed in one roof, and that's within the Honors and Scholars Program, if you will. Now, each program is separate in that the Honors Program provides those students with an enhanced academic experience inside the classroom. So this is for those students who've taken all those AP, those honors and IB classes in high school, and they want to continue that level of work in college. So it's a really neat opportunity because there are more than 350 honors designated courses taught by designated honors faculty, and it allows you to get involved with some research opportunities much, much earlier. And a little side note, honors students get to register for classes a little bit sooner, which is a kind of a neat option for them. The Scholars Program is arranged around 17 themes, ranging from academic and career opportunities to critical issues and leadership development. So all of these programs for scholars is happening outside of the classroom. So there's a very distinct, unique distinction between the two. And one last piece about the Honors and Scholars Program is that you have to select your interest on the common application, and you can only select one. You cannot select both simultaneously on the application. So very, very good question there. Let's see here. Another question that came in, and I think I'm going to let Tatum, if you will, answer this question, and that is, are freshman dorms air conditioned?
Yes, so again, great question. As of right now, 30 of the 37 residence halls that I talked about do have air conditioning, and these are split all around campus. We do have plans to install air conditioning in the next coming year, in the remaining residence halls in the next coming years. But as of right now, again, 30 of those residence halls do have air conditioning, whereas 7 of them do not. Also, I know this wasn't technically part of the question, but we don't technically have freshman residence halls versus sophomore or upperclassmen residence halls. It really is just a mixture between all of the different residence halls that we have on campus. We don't typically separate freshmen versus upperclassmen. But again, good question.
Thank you. And I just want to mention that these student ambassadors are outstanding. You probably saw me type it in the chat. They know it all. And that's why the administrators, or the adults, if you will, we truly just hang in the background and let the students answer all of these wonderful questions. Let's see here. Another question that came in. Are we assigned an advisor for our majors and also a career advisor? How approachable are professors for mentorship opportunities? If you don't mind, Faye, I'd love for you to address this question.
All right, so that's a really good question, actually, and we do have there are a couple of different answers for this particular question. So all students do have an advisor through their major, but if you have multiple majors or if you have a minor, you will get an advisor for for each of your majors and your minors as well. And then at Ohio State, career services is run through your college. So your career advisor or your career services person is run through your particular college. So I mentioned that I'm part of the College of Public Affairs. So we do have a career services advisor who is particularly assigned to public affairs students. So she works specifically with public affairs students. And then the final part of your question, how approachable are professors for mentorship? In my particular experience, professors have been super approachable. So I'm really a big proponent of just going to office hours, even if you don't have any particular questions on like the homework or anything that's happening in class, just to talk to professors. And I've gone to office hours just for that purpose, just to talk to my professors, and I've gotten some really awesome mentors and people who have written me recommendation letters. I'm currently writing a senior thesis, and my advisor actually suggested that I write a thesis through me going to her office hours a lot. She just suggested that I write about something that I was interested in. So I would say that professors are really interested in helping undergraduate students. Just making sure that you're available to talk to them is the biggest thing.
Thank you, Faye, for that deep answer. And I hope, as you can see, students, there's not, or guests, that there's not just one simple way to answer that question, because our students are talented and they're taking advantage of multiple opportunities that are arising for them. And I have to say, you students, the guests, you guys are asking wonderful, wonderful questions. Keep them coming. Question that came in that says, which specific schools have additional requirements to apply for? What are the most applied for / taken majors on campus? That's another loaded question. How much time do you have? So at Ohio State University, there are more than 200 majors to choose from. Now, when we say competitive, that's a little bit of a unique difference between most popular. Competitive and popular are a little bit different here at Ohio State. The more competitive majors, which means that you must be admitted to the university before you are considered for admission into that major, are nursing, business, public health. Let's see, nursing, business, public health, and I am missing one. Engineering. Oh my gosh, how did I miss an engineering? So those four are the most competitive. Now, as I mentioned, there are a number of popular majors at Ohio State. Music, dance, popular at Ohio State, not just to name a few. So those four competitive ones, you don't have to submit a second application. There's just a second review that's happening within the university that we need to do. Nothing that you, the student, needs to do as far as two separate applications. Great question. Let's see here. I believe research was mentioned. Can you go more in depth about research opportunities? I'm going to highlight a little bit of this, and I would love for Tatum to maybe kind of chime in on this, and that is through the Office of Undergraduate Research, our undergraduates have the opportunity to get involved in research literally from day one. And if you had attended any of my colleagues in admissions presentations, we talk about research extensively, because this research is only going to enhance your resume for that first job opportunity outside of college. So Tatum, anything that you wanted to add along to that?
So I actually don't have research experience myself, but I do know a lot of friends are involved in research. And I think the biggest thing I like to point out regarding research is just that it's not always like this typical in a lab, like you have to be a science major to do something related to research. So again, my major is data analytics, and one of my best friends at school, her name's Megan. She's also a data analytics major with a social sciences specialization. So she's very, very interested in psychology. And so she has, I don't know all the specifics on her research, so hopefully this is somewhat helpful, but she found a way to merge both that STEM interest in data analytics and sort of computer science with her psychology interest. And she's found a way, working with her professors, to come up with research to, again, merge those special interests of hers. And I think that's just because she got to talk to her professors. It was a great way to get her foot in the door with those experiences. And it sort of just connects you with all or further options in the future, future experiences, excuse me, that's what I'm looking for, in the future. So I would highly encourage getting involved in research or looking more into it if it's something you're considering at all.
Thank you, Tatum. Let's see, this fantastic question. Next question that came in is, does Ohio State foster a collaborative atmosphere? Some schools are really, they use the word cutthroat here, and I quote the question that came in. Here at Ohio State, you will learn alongside some of the most talented and brightest minds, not only within Ohio, across the state, across the country, and around the world. And you will have the opportunity to learn from some of the most talented faculty members in the world as well. You may even have an international faculty member, and that only enhances your learning experiences. And many of our students that are on this webinar today, they can say that their faculty members are from all over the world, and they are truly having an outstanding learning opportunity. So now, as far as our students, yes, they are very smart. They come from some very talented high schools across the country. So there is a collaborative learning environment with our students. And when you are in a classroom with talented students, it only enhances your learning experiences as well. So yes, very competitive in terms of supporting each other and having a strong academic experience inside the classroom. Let's see here. What is the average number of internships for students? Tatum or Faye, either of you want to take on the internship question?
I don't have particular data on this, but I would say that most students have 1 or 2 internships by the time that they graduate. And then the other part of the question, I think, is do they extend beyond Ohio? And I would say definitely. I've had a couple of different internships, and this past summer I was working at a think tank that's based in DC, and it was supposed to be in person. So I would have been in DC, and that's the case for a lot of different students. Is that if you decide to take a position, there's a lot of different opportunities in Columbus, in Ohio, but if you find the perfect position outside of Ohio, you're definitely encouraged to apply, and a lot of students decide to take that route as well.
I was 100% going to say what Faye just said, so she took all of my thunder. Excellent answer, Faye, to that question. We have just a few more minutes to see if there are any other questions that are coming in. Again, guests, you have asked outstanding questions, and we can see that you've planned for this webinar this evening. There's some questions that were very specific to you and your needs, and that is exactly what this campus tour experience is supposed to be. It is all about you, and we are here just facilitating it and answering your appropriate questions. We will give it another minute or so to see if any new questions came in. And one came in here is, we talked about research, so that's already been answered. Any other questions that you may have? Hearing and seeing none. Again, thank you so much for your time spending with us this evening. I know that some of you, it's still the afternoon towns. It is the evening over here They're excited that our students they're wrapping up their exams right now before this webinar started. They are excited. They are thinking, we made it through this semester of the COVID-19 era. Again, thank you so much for your time spending with us this evening. We hope that you have found this experience extremely valuable. If you want to attend another one of these, the same link that you visited to register for this, you can go right back to it and sign up for another one in the next coming days to have your questions answered some more. Again, thank you so much. Have a great evening and go Buckeyes.